The real estate business is crazy fast right now. And I don't mean the market is going to be the market. The market slows, it speeds, it does whatever it does. But what's happening is the business life is changing. And I will say that it's partially related to this thing called AI, but I will say it's mostly about technology. It's mostly that what we could do in a month in the past, we can now do in a week, we can do in a shorter period. And I think so much of what's going on right now is the successful are becoming much more successful. And I hate to say it because I hate to say it for somebody who's listening and doesn't know how to compete at this level. But the game is changing so much so that you're going to see more of a two class. You're either succeeding at a very high level or you're failing. It's not going to be a lot of in between. Like we're pretty mediocre for a long time. It's going to take you out. It's going to either be up or out. And I think a lot of that is related to the technology that's coming. And it's funny, I was at the Inman conference just before COVID. I think it was 2000, June of 2019. And I remember meeting a guy that was big money. They were big money for the industry. They were the big money investors in the industry. And he said, we tried to fund things that would change the life of the agent. And when the agents didn't accept change, we just built the products around the agents and went right past them to the consumer. And some of you will know the names of those companies, right? But what's sad is that we're the ones that need to be changing it. We can be change agents, be at the forefront of change, and we can create massive opportunities for ourselves. Or we can watch the change happening and go, wow, I should probably catch up with that. The bad news is, with as fast as things are changing, that may not become an option for much longer. And I think that right now we've got to get really smart, really fast, and not let ourselves get obsolete. And that's a word I use quite a bit because I think people think it's a function of age. It's not. You can be obsolete at any age. You can get obsolete really quickly if you don't know how to play the game the way it's being played. And part of it is we talk in terms of marketing and marketing, what marketing used to look like and what acceleration looked like from start to 10 million or 15 million or 20 million, 25 million, whatever that number is. And numbers don't really matter because it's the success level. But what we realize today is that people are coming in new and getting to numbers much faster, hitting numbers that nobody ever thought was possible because they're starting off in a different way than the people that have been here for a while who are unwilling to make the changes. Harder sometimes to shift from where I am to something new than it is for somebody coming in to just go, this is the way it's always been for me. This is how it is, right? This is how I see it. So I think there's a real danger that we could become obsolete super quickly in businesses of all kinds. But I think in the real estate business, it's going to become way more obvious. So if you're a new agent in the market today, if you're a newer agent, a year and a half and or new, like in weeks, months, I would say this: pay little attention to the agents that have been around a long time, unless you can see them exceeding other people's wildest dreams, unless they're just such an icon that you can't ignore them. Because obviously, somebody in that position has elevated themselves and has taken advantage of technology and is bringing in the best of the best. But the reality is, if you look at somebody who's been around for 15 or 20 years and they're still in basic survival mode, doing a few $1,000,000 a year, whatever, you don't follow anything they're doing. And I say that it sounds harsh, but the reality is they're doing it a way that probably never worked, but it certainly doesn't work today. And I would also say, if you're new in the business, and again, if new means younger, maybe you've got some technology tools in your back pocket that you grew up with that you feel comfortable with. If you're newer in the industry and you've been around a few years in other industries and you're not up on technology, I would say learn quickly, because this idea of becoming obsolete, or better yet, let's go to the other side, being an innovator, looking at the cutting edge, looking at what's possible with new technology. If you really become that as a new agent, I don't care if you're 1 year in the business, 2 years in the business, you can excel beyond other people's wildest dreams. You will be the story. You'll be who'll be they're talking about. You're the one they're going to want to emulate. And the story will be he or she came along and used all those newfangled tools. And it's not exactly what they'll say, but it's something like that. And it's because you are doing it the way today's game is being played. And you don't have all that old baggage of how to not do it like that anymore. You just come in, and I would say be careful with who your influences are. If you're in the business a number of years and you've been around for a while, and especially if you're a person of some specific age, for example, 40s, 50s, 60s, and ongoing like me, I would say be very careful because the changes that you don't want to take advantage of, the things that you're probably most resistant to, will be your death. They'll be the part that will keep you out of this business, knock you out of the business very quickly. And I'll tell you, when I think about that, I think about this guy named Andrew Carnegie. And Andrew was of the early 1900s, built steel mills, steel mills. And one of the things that he discovered, because he was a mathematician, was that the new plants, the ones that they built, were technologically advanced enough, even if it was only 2 or 3 or 4 years later, so much so that they would put the other ones to shame. And then they would try to retrofit. They'd try to take the old plants, listen carefully, take the old plants and retrofit them to try and get the same production values. And they couldn't do it. And eventually they came to the place where they said, let's just tear these factories down after they've been in force for 5 years, tear them to the ground, rebuild. And even though it takes 18 months to 2 years to build that new plant, we're going to be so much more efficient that we will more than make up for the losses that we took. And I'm going to tell you that if you can use that example, that model as a tear down your factory to the bottom, start from scratch. And the question you might ask yourself, if you've been around for a while, is if I was entering this business and I found out there was buyers and sellers and they wanted to figure out how to get a transaction done, if I didn't know how it was done, how would I do it today? How would I approach that today? And what you're going to start to see is that there's new models for businesses, there's new models for technology, there's new models for processing, there's new models for everything. And what it will make you is extremely efficient and effective. And if you hang on to the old process, what you get to do is go, I just don't understand how to keep up anymore. And that's the greatest danger. So I'm really going to urge veterans to go for change, to embrace it, to seek it out, to find every class you can and really grab it. Do not let yourself get hung up in this whole thought of, I've got relationships, I've got past clients. It doesn't matter. You'll be out of the business. You're either going to play the game the way it's being played, or you just need to get out now. And maybe this video is the best thing you'll ever get, not because it's helping you get better, because you've already checked out. It's helping you get out, and it's going to save your family. It's going to save you a fortune. Don't be a starving deer in winter and die slowly. It's a painful death, right? Decide, I'm in or I'm out. I think one of the biggest dilemmas that we face right now in the industry, as an industry, and we're losing agents, is that we had a huge upswing. First of all, who would have ever anticipated that COVID would have created the market it created? Can't even explain it. We would have thought the opposite, but it turned out to be the most powerful market in real estate history. There's never been a market that's been as good as that market. What happened is we got a lot of agents who thought that was the norm and that you could just show up and the deals would fall in your lap. You could hold an open house and there'd be hundreds of people. And okay, I'm facetious there, and we could write an offer and we'd be competing with 30 or 50 people. And that prices were going to soar beyond, it was going to be asking beyond and waiving inspections. And like people thought that was real estate. I'm like, that was a fantasy. That was a fantasy. That was not real estate. And what we have now, as we come out of that, not into a bad market, but into a normalized market, to a market that is pretty much the way markets should be. We have skilled and skill-less people. We have people that came out of that era that never had to build any muscles. They never had to go to the gym. They never had to do anything. They never experienced that. Somebody called me right after the market shifted, called me and said, I've got a listing that's on the market for 3 weeks. What do I do now? And I wanted to laugh. That wasn't what they wanted from me. They wanted support. But the reality is, how do you not know? I haven't had a listing on the market for 3 weeks. What we realize now is that it's about digging in and going deep to find out, are you really meant to be a realtor? Are you really all in on that? And it's going to take a lot of skills that many people have not developed. And so this is going to be a time of high education, taking more classes. I can't take all that time in classes. We got nothing else to do. If you're not doing well, you got nothing else to do. This is the time. I would dig in, go to the education, make sure that you're getting really smart, really fast, really grow up in the business. And the good news is Your experience closing deals means you know how to do contracts, how to do that stuff. Now you're going to learn the business of real estate. Now you're going to learn the business of the business. Now you're going to learn marketing. Now you're going to learn the things that really matter for popping you into a place where it's not survival any longer, but it's really success at the highest levels. Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we're watching in the industry right now that is scary or super exciting, depending upon which side you're on, is this thing called generative AI, which is I mean, Chat GPT would be the name that people are throwing at it. And there's others, right? We've got Bard and we've got Bing and we've got some other stuff. But the fact is, AI is changing the game and it's changing it really quickly. Chat GPT was born on November 30th and in the first 5 days had 1,000,000 users. Now, what's interesting is I really believe that right now, and again, depending upon when you're watching this, there's a gap between the person who's never used it and is hearing those words for the first time on this video going, "What?" And the person who on November 30th said, "There's something here." The gap is growing deeper by the day. And the faster you jump in, I don't mean jump on the bandwagon. This is not a trend. It's like going back 40 years and going, I think the internet's just a passing phase. It's just a passing fad. It is not. It's changed our life. In fact, most of us couldn't imagine what life would be like without the internet. And I'm going to tell you, I don't think that people are going to be able to imagine how life was before AI really kicked in. Listen, AI has been all around us. We got all kinds of examples of where we've been using AI, and AI has been an influence over us for years. But now it got turned loose to the public. It got turned loose to you and to me. It got turned loose to the power of learning how to do something with it. And what you realize is you just multiplied your effectiveness, at least potential. I won't say your effectiveness unless you learn how to use it, but your potential just got unlocked. And the game that's going to be played now is going to be a very fast and moving business. And I think this real estate business is going to completely see that middle gap that the haves and the have-nots will be left. The have-nots will be short-term and turning over, and the haves are going to be playing at a very high level. And the income potential, the business at that level is so big. This is going to be the separator for a lot of people. So I would say be very aware that AI in whatever form, whether it's ChatGPT or by the time you watch this could be something else. And if that's true, how many of them were released on the backbone of ChatGPT specifically with their company at OpenAI? And I think the answer is most of them or many of them. And that's why that's the primary driver. So I'm going to just say we need to get really smart. We need to learn this ChatGPT thing, strange as it may sound. And what you'll realize is the future just got really bright. And if you don't, what you realize is the future got really dim for at least you as a realtor. I think it's going to be the big separator. So I think this AI thing is going to be a big deal. And of course, we can look at it as a life changer because for example, when I ruptured my Achilles tendon and I wanted to do upper workouts, but not lower workouts, and couldn't even get into the gym because I couldn't walk to the gym, I needed some workouts. I can go in there and ask questions like that. I can ask questions about how to make a brilliant date night for the special lady in my life. I wrote her a poem, right? With the help of Chat GPT, I did. Our song, I should say. It wasn't a poem. Anybody can write a poem. I wrote a song. And what I realize is that anything's possible. But let's talk about the realtor because the realtor that realizes the power of this just harnessed two, three, four different employees in the various things. When you say, I wish I had somebody to help me with that. I wish I had somebody to help me with that. Just imagine that there's people that are there and they're just artificial intelligence, not people as you and I know them, and that they can take care of things like writing up your listing descriptions, which is just a pain in the royal tush. They can take care of writing your social media posts or at least collaborating with you, right? Where they're going to write stuff. Chat GPT will give you options and you can go, here's how it's my style, right? It feels like me. Content creation for everything. I don't know what to say on a video. I don't know what to write for my posts. You do now. And this thing will spit out information nonstop. What are the top keywords that I want to use for my website? The top keywords that I want to have installed in my videos and my blogs. What about writing a blog? It's a lot. I'm not a great writer. You can write it with ChatGPT. And I'm telling you that the list goes on and on. Your flyers, your brochures, literally local content for people about the area, the top 10 restaurants, There's nothing that you can't imagine. And when I talk to people, go, I just don't know what to ask it. I'm like, you're not realizing you can ask it anything. Just say, here's a pro on some subject. What would you ask it? And ask that question and watch what comes out of it because it's spitting out material that's unbelievable. You want to write a book? You've been stuck. You haven't written a book yet. It's going to help you. It won't write the book for you, but it'll help you write the book. It's going to be your email nurture campaigns, like literally anything you can think of. You want a script for cold calling? I don't know why you would want one, but if you do, you want a script for calling on people that just went through your open house today? That's easy. You want to set up a series of emails that you can put into a workflow after you meet them at a certain situation, or you went to go see them as a listing presentation. You want some pieces to go out as a pre-list. All of that will be aided by your friend ChatGPT or some AI force. And so I just want you to really get cued in on this. It is the game changer. It just is your leverage on steroids. It's various people in your world that you've always thought you wanted, and it's all wrapped into one place on your computer. I was passing through the ESPN channel, and I saw a poker tournament, and I watched this guy, and I didn't even know what it meant because I've never played poker really. And then this guy said, "I'm all in," and he pushed all the chips in. And I thought it was interesting because when I figured it out, that means it's do or die. I'm all in. I'm 100% all in on this. I'm committed. I'm going to tell you that right now you need to be all in this business because there is no middle ground. You don't get to do real estate. It's not going to happen for you. And I got to tell you, if you're not fully committed, and I don't mean that you've got a family and you're not going to see them and you're all in 24 hours a day. I don't mean that. All in on what it takes to serve people and to build the business and have the structures and run by a calendar. And by the way, the calendar is one of the keys that will keep you balanced and all that. But if you're not all in on real estate, I'm going to just tell you, it's a great time for you to consider a different occupation. This game is getting elevated by the day. What's big is getting bigger. What people considered big before is pretty small. The number of people that are raising up. I used to talk about it's a 7-figure business. Oh, heck, there's thousands of people running $1 million businesses today. Thousands. This is not even a hard thing to do anymore. It's the easiest place to make a fortune, one of the hardest places to make a living. And for that reason, you need to really consider, am I all in? Am I really going to make this thing work? Am I really going to go for it? Because if I'm not, eventually I could find myself sliding into failing slowly. And I'll tell you, that's a painful death. I was driving through Utah one time and I remember in the snow watching these deer on the side of the road. There's nothing, there's snow everywhere, there's nothing to eat. And you know the eventuality of that. I called it starving deer in winter. And what I recognize is in real estate, it happens just like that. Just hard, and then it gets harder and then harder. But all the way through, you've drug your family through it. You've drug your financial future in it. You've drug your credit through it. You know what? If you're in, be all in. If you're out, get out. It's a great time for you to make that choice. I think it's a stellar time for you to make a great decision for yourself, not based on what other people think you should do, but what you are really driven to do.